Finally.
Hey.
Hey. So, okay, I think we've seen one big obstacle to cloud managing already. That is that you rely on internet connections, you rely on one system, and if something, never rely on one system, something doesn't work with that, you're in trouble. But let me start very quickly. A quick overview of MindMeister. So we are a mind mapping software vendor. We defined ourselves very proudly here as the market-leading online mind mapping tool. I think if you define your market small enough, you will always be market-leading. But I have to say we're doing very well. We have over 2 million registered users today. We've been around for quite a while. We launched in 2007. Back then, actually, we were the first online mind mapping solution for about 3 months. And I'm sure you're aware of the market now. There's quite a few vendors that have solutions out there. We're still the only one that works solely in the browser without Flash or any plugin technology. So some of the features of MindMeister, I'll really start very quickly. That I mean, it's a real-time brainstorming tool. That's what the main benefit of cloud software is. We have quite a few things that make us stand out. Among other things, we have, for example, a history view where you can actually see every single change that was made to a mind map by everyone. You can sort of play a timeline. We have this new presentation mode that you are now witnessing working finally. It allows you to play presentations directly in the browser. So this is the reason what you see here. I was a little bit offset why I didn't want to use the local solution. It's still, the new version is still a little bit in progress. So some drawing mistakes still. We do have a web app, but we also have apps for iPad, iPhone, and Android tablet, Android phones. So they are client apps really installed, and they communicate with the server where all your mind maps are stored, so you can work offline on them with your online mind maps. Right. Some more drawing us. And there's a few more things we're available in Google Drive, Google Apps, some other integrations with Box.net and others. We do have a public mind map library as well. Of course, by far not as rich as Liam's, but we allow our users to publish their mind maps as well. And we've been talking in the past about doing some integrations. We'll continue those discussions. Right, so let's dive back into the topic about the advantages and the obstacles of cloud-based mind mapping that we've seen and that we encounter with businesses and with users in general. So I'll start with the advantages. Fortunately, they're overwhelming. I've separated those into two main parts. One, the technical advantages, and the other one on more of the business side and on the end user side. So quite a lot of technical advantages, fortunately. First of all, the foremost, obviously, in a central cloud-based tool is the ability to do real-time collaboration, to work with people on a mind map around the globe at the same time, see what they're doing in real time, to chat with them, to maybe Skype with them at the same time, to have brainstorming sessions. Access anytime, anywhere, of course. So all your maps are stored in the cloud. You can go into an internet cafe, fire up a browser, and access all your mind maps very quickly. You can do it from your mobile phone. You can do it from a tablet PC. No client. Obviously, the browser is the client, so you don't have to install anything. You can also very easily share a cloud-based mind map with someone else. Just send them a link to the website, and they don't need any other software. The cloud storage of the maps has intrinsic backup, which is very nice to that sort of you're responsible for your users' data backup, which is a problem if you lose your backup, big problem. But it's very helpful that users don't rely on their own backups in the end. You can easily integrate web sources. You can integrate Dropbox for attachments. You can actually sync your mind maps with Dropbox or Google Drive. We've integrated with other databases like Wikipedia to get definitions of terms. You can do it very easily because you're all on the web, on the cloud. You can use logins of all those tools. People can use their Google login, their Facebook login. And probably one of the biggest advantages, which we also saw can be disadvantages, you have one product to manage, you have to make sure one server works, and when you update to newer versions, you just need to update that one server. That's the beauty of the web service. You don't have software rollout, client rollout, no versions. And yeah, security is going to come up again in this presentation during the obstacle phase, but actually with SSL and encrypted communications, security is technically not an issue. Should be also perceived not as an issue. In terms of business advantages, so there's a few advantages that are, they're win-win things. They're good for us as a vendor, and they're also good for the users. So good for us is, for example, our website is the sales tool. It's the same for Liam and anyone who runs a website. We don't need a sales team. The internet, Google, SEO, all that does the job for us, which is great for me personally. Not much of a salesperson, so I like the fact that the website does that for me. And the other thing is, you can afford a lower price for your software because you don't have to maintain a huge sales force that needs to be paid and needs to have a higher price. So you have a low cost of goods, you don't ship any CDs, you don't ship any physical product. Again, helps to lower the price. Can you actually see the green points here on the projector? A little bit. Okay. And the subscription model is something that really works only for cloud-based services, and that's something that's helping the users well because they really only need to pay when they use it. We have a monthly model, for example. So you use it for a couple of months, you then cancel it if you don't need it, you come back again when you need it. You also don't need any upfront investments, so you don't need to shell out 250, 300 euros. Start with a couple of euros. Yes, you have very fast update cycles. Like I said, just update your server. You can launch new features every week, every month. And you also can fix problems instantly. So you get a report, you roll it out the same day, and you don't need to roll it in software. Yeah, some of the advantages make the software more competitive. On the business side, I think I'll move on probably to the obstacles, which unfortunately there are some as well. So on the one side, technical obstacles, of course. So first of all, you always need a stable internet connection. And that still is an issue these days, especially if people are traveling. Even we see with our client software, with our iOS apps, people have theoretically a connection that's on, but intermittent faults create a lot of problems technically as well that you need to handle on the server side. You do rely very much on browser vendors, and everyone who's created web software knows that can be a bit of a headache with older browsers of specific companies. And actually, this is getting better, but of course browsers used to have or still have a lot of technical limitations compared to a client software that you can just program as you want. Like in terms of graphics, things haven't gotten much better on the browser, but there were limitations also in terms of integration of the operating system. I saw quite jealous to see people with the remote control advancing the slides. I can do that easily. I can do that easily with the browser. No. Oh wait, this is one of the technical limitations that you still have. Panicking. No criticism. In the offline usage you have to handle the ability to, enable people to work offline and then enable them to sync back into your main server, handle conflicts and so on. And finally, some of the business problems, of course. That's one that's in the forefront of everyone's minds. 10 minutes.
I gave you some extra, that's fine.
Okay. That is that the cloud is being perceived still as dangerous. I think someone over there said that in the obstacles to adoption. And that is certainly still the case. We see that every day, especially in companies and organizations, especially in the financial sector, pharmaceutical, in all those areas where intellectual property and security is very, very important, of course. You know, the whole discussion about NSA didn't help that. It did help us to a certain extent, as we're not hosted in the US, we're hosted in Germany, and the PRISM laws don't apply to our servers, don't apply to us, but well, we've seen that NSA is present also in Europe. So that's something that we really have to counter-argue a lot. There's still insufficient understanding of the cloud, of the security in the cloud. People are afraid of losing the data, of giving it out of their hand. People are afraid of losing the data when they close their accounts, for example, on MindMeister. Although there is exports to lots of formats, but people like to have things in their own hands. That's the situation. There's always company ID policies, of course. It just don't allow you to use web software, to use cloud software. And there's something we've seen, also compliance with legal issues. We see in the education market, which is quite an important market for us. In the US, there's a law that companies can't get email addresses of students, of pupils 13 years old or younger. They're not allowed to gather them. That's just how the law is. And for us, technically, it's a big problem because we rely really heavily on email addresses. And we try to integrate with the vendor there, and that issue has come up. Subscription model is a really good pricing model. On one hand, for mind mapping software, which tends to be a software that people use in phases. So they start a project, they use a lot of mind mapping, they have a new idea, they change their life, they use that. Retention tends to be an issue to keep people using the mind mapping tool longer and consistently. And that's something, I don't know if we, maybe in the afternoon discussion, it's something that also I'm very interested in, of course, how to work against that. And finally, it is a very fast-paced marketplace, cloud marketplace, just because you are allowed to, you can do things very quickly, you can update very often, everyone does that, and people come to expect that of you as well. They come to expect very frequent updates, addition of new features, and you just need to be able to keep up with that, essentially. So you just had the 5-minute sign. The original presentation had another slide here with the thank you and questions bubble. So I'm at the end of the actual content of the presentation, and if there are any questions now, happy to take them. Otherwise, during the course of the day.